Hi everyone, it's me. Oh, that's better. I started previously, and Mister was climbing onto my lap so you guys could see him, like he always does, and I knew it was time to start. But then the video wasn't in sync with the sound, and so my mouth was moving, but then it was a weird, bizarre thing, so I had to stop and start over. Anyway, so I hope you're well. This is being recorded after I did my photo shoot. I don't want to get into it too much, but it was my photo shoot was for earlier in the month, and there was some interference. Even the makeup artist's car broke down, but I finally got that done. I just had to keep my mouth shut about it, and then it was easier. Got through that. But today, I'm just trying not to make my videos too long. But if I didn't say it already, I hope you're well, and I'm well. It's Saturday afternoon at 5:24. Oh, Saturday, January 27th at 5:24 p.m. Obviously 2024. I have been wanting to read you this chapter for a while, and of course I took my bookmark out, but let's see if I can just find it really quick. Yeah, I found it. It's quite long, but it actually has to do with my video, the video with the photo shoot that has to do with the yellow, blue, and red, and the color purple, which is the red and the blue combined. And then I have another video that I have to film about cosmic generative forces, red and blue, ice and fire, and all that. I haven't, I wrote it all down though, so it's all here. And then I have a little paper with some other stuff that I needed to talk about as well. So, the chapter that I'm going to read from The Secret Teachings of All Ages. Now, I know that I was calling it by the wrong name. I do that. Sometimes I log things into my brain and they are not exactly correct. I did that with one of my friend's names for the longest time. And it got to the point where it was embarrassing because I didn't even mean to mess up her name. Anyway, so the chapter's called The Sun, a universal deity. Now, not to be confused with, like, sun worship, which some people see as a negative thing. But I mean, if you want to give a physical, I guess I can see it this way, a physical representation to God, a life giver, it would be the sun, right? Because without it, we'd all be dead. Oh, there's something else about, I'll just write it down really quick over here before I forget. Because that has relevance with being a god of worlds. Yeah, and the sun. Hopefully I don't, oh wait. Okay, I might remember now. Hold on. Yeah, now I will. Okay, good, I didn't write in my book. Okay, so let's read this chapter. Like I said, it has to do with my photo shoot and the representation of energies and colors. Geez, everything's connected. They really weren't kidding. Oh god, 5 minutes almost in. Okay. The sun, a universal deity. The adoration of the sun was one of the earliest and most natural forms of religious expression. I haven't read this yet, by the way. I'm reading it now for the first time. I wanted to read this and on record for quite some time. I didn't want to read it by myself because I want you to see my genuine experience of the chapter. Because I have a feeling of what it's about, but I don't really know. That's the honest to God's truth. Complex modern theologies are merely involvements and amplifications of this simple Aboriginal belief. The primitive mind recognizing the benefit power of the solar orb, like I was saying, adorned it as the proxy of the supreme deity, like a representation. Concerning the origin of sun worship, Albert Pike makes the following concise statement in his Morals and Dogma. To them, Aboriginal peoples, he, the sun, was the innate fire of bodies, the fire of nature, author of life, heat, and ignition, just as I was saying. He was to them the efficient cause of all generation. For without him there was no movement, no existence, no form. He was to them immense, indivisible, imperishable, and everywhere present. Just like I said Source was. That's how I see God. Everywhere and everything, creator of all things. We're saying the same things with different words. Almost like how in different places we speak different languages. But we're saying the same thing just in different languages. Like I can say, hi, how are you? And then, hi, how are you in another language. I drew a blank on how to do that just then, but I can, never mind. Where was I? Everywhere present. It was their need of light and of his creative energy that was felt by all men, and nothing was more fearful to them than his absence. Like when the sun goes down, that's when all the scary shit comes out, including the animals that will eat you. His beneficent influences caused his identification with the principle of good, and the Brahma of the Hindus, and Mithras of the Persians, and Amun, I don't know how to say that word, Phtha, and Osiris of the Egyptians, and Bel of the Chaldeans, and Adonai of the Phoenicians. Why can I never say that? It's like the word Phoenix, Phoenicians. Was that right? Oh, I didn't even try. The Adonis and Apollo of the Greeks became but personifications of the sun, the regenerating principle, image of that fecundity which perpetuates and rejuvenates the world's existence. Among all the nations of antiquity, altars, mounds, and temples were dedicated to the worship of the orb of day. The ruins of these sacred places yet remain, notable among them being the pyramids of Yucatan and Egypt, the snake mounds of the American Indians, the ziggurats of Babylon and Chaldea, the round towers of Ireland, and the massive rings of uncut stone in Britain and Normandy. The Tower of Babel, which according to the scriptures was built so that man might reach up to God, was probably an astronomical observatory. Cool. Many early priests and prophets, both pagan and Christian, were versed in astronomy and astrology. Their writings are best understood when read in the light of these ancient sciences. With the growth of man's knowledge of the constitution and periodicity of the heavenly bodies, like the 12-fold constitution of man, that has to do with like mind, body, spirit connection. Edge of the constitution, periodicity of the heavenly bodies, astronomical principles, and terminology were introduced into his religious systems. The tutelary gods were given planetary thrones. Oh, like Jupiter and Mars and all that. The celestial bodies being named after the deities assigned to them. The fixed stars were divided into constellations, and through these constellations wandered the sun and its planets, the latter with their accompanying satellites. Guess the moons? Okay, the next part is the Solar Trinity, has to do with 3. And also, when I read this, it reminds me of how, there's a map of the known lands, and it's not Claudio Nocelli's, it's another one that I saw, and it has 3 suns. And so, I'm kind of thinking it's something like this. The sun, as supreme among the celestial bodies, visible to the astronomers of antiquity, was assigned to the highest of the gods, and became symbolic of the supreme authority of the Creator himself. From a deep philosophic consideration of the powers and principles of the sun has come the concept of the Trinity as it is understood in the world today. The tenet of a triune divinity, that means 3, is not peculiar to Christian or Mosaic theology, but forms a conspicuous part of the dogma of the greatest religions of both ancient and modern times. The Persians, Hindus, Babylonians, and Egyptians had their supreme intelligence. Whoops, I skipped a line. Had their trinities. In every instance, these represented the threefold form of the one supreme intelligence. In modern Masonry, the deity is symbolized by an equilateral triangle, 1, 2, 3. Its 3 sides representing the primary manifestations of the Eternal One, hang on. Who is himself represented as a tiny flame, called by the Hebrews Yod, Y-O-D. Jacob Boehme, the Teutonic mystic, calls the Trinity the 3 witnesses. Like the 3 wise men? 3 witnesses? By means of which the invisible is made known to the visible, tangible universe. The origin of the Trinity is obvious to anyone who will observe the daily manifestations of the sun of morning, noon, night, or morning, noon, before sunset, sunrise to sunset, This orb, being the symbol of all light, has 3 distinct phases: rising, midday, and setting. The philosophers, therefore, divided all life of all things into 3 distinct parts: growth, maturity, and decay. Almost like the maiden, the mother, and the crone. Between the twilight of dawn and the twilight of evening is the high noon of resplendent glory. God the Father, the creator of the world, is symbolized by the dawn. His color is blue because the sun rising in the morning is veiled in blue mist. God the Son, S-O-N, the illuminating one, sent to bear witness of his Father before all worlds, is the celestial globe at noonday. That's Jesus. Radiant and magnificent, the maned lion of Judah, the golden-haired savior of the world. Yellow is his color, and because his power is without end, because yellow is the color of power, and yellow represents your solar plexus chakra, which is your sea of chi and your center of power. That's why when we eat, the food goes in there. It's almost like your fuel tank for your vehicle. Creates the energy there. His power is without end. God, the Holy Ghost, is the sunset phase, when the orb of day, robed in flaming red, rests for a moment upon the horizon line and then vanishes into the darkness of night, to wander in the lower worlds and later again rise triumphant from the embrace of darkness. Wow. To the Egyptians, the sun was a symbol of immortality, for while it died each night, it rose again with the ensuing dawn. Not only has the sun this diurnal activity, but it is also its annual pilgrimage, during which time it passes successively through the 12 celestial houses of the heavens, remaining in each for 30 days. Added to these, it has a third path of travel, which is called the precession of the equinoxes, in which it retrogrades around the zodiac through the 12 signs at the rate of 1 degree every 72 years. Concerning the annual passage of the sun through the 12 houses of the heavens, Robert Hewitt Brown, he was a 32nd degree Mason, because it says 32 with a thing, and that's degrees. He's a 32nd degree Mason, makes the following statement. The sun, as he pursued his way among these living creatures of the zodiac, was said, in allegorical language, either to assume the nature of or to triumph over the sign he entered. The sun thus became a bull in Taurus, and was worshipped as such by the Egyptians under the name of Apis. I said it wrong. And by the Assyrians as Baal, or Bull. The sun thus became a bull in Taurus, and was worshipped as such by the Egyptians under the name of Apis, and by the Assyrians as Baal, or Bull. Baal. If you don't know who that is, I've heard a lot of bad things about that one. Whatever. In Leo, the sun became a lion slayer, Hercules, and an archer in Sagittarius. Oh, okay. I get it now. No, kind of. I kind of do. I don't know. I'm not gonna. Whatever. In Pisces, the fishes, he was a fish. Dagon, or Vishnu, the fish god. Is that why some of the Anunnaki look like fish? Fish people? The fish god of the Philistines and Hindus? I don't think you mean it. It's not spelled Hindous. Forgive my ignorance. Maybe, A careful analysis of the religious systems of pagandom uncovers much evidence of the fact that its priests served the solar energy, and that their supreme deity was in every case this divine light personified. Godfrey Higgins, after 30 years of inquiry into the origin of religious beliefs, is of the opinion that all the gods of antiquity resolved themselves into the solar fire, sometimes itself as God, or sometimes an emblem or Shekinah of the higher principle, known by the name of the creative being or god. The Egyptian priests, in many of their ceremonies, wore the skins of lions, which were symbols of the solar orb, owing to the fact that the sun is exalted, dignified, and most fortunately placed in the constellation of Leo, which he rules, and which was at one time the keystone of the celestial arc. Again, Hercules is a solar deity, for as this mighty hunter performed his 12 labors, all like the sun going through the 12 signs, so the sun, in transversing the 12 houses of the zodiacal band, performs during his pilgrimage 12 essential and benevolent labors for the human race and for nature in general. Hercules, like the Egyptian priests, wore the skin of a lion for a girdle. Samson, the Hebrew hero, as his name implies, is also a solar deity. His fight with the Nubian lion, his battles with the Philistines, who represent the powers of darkness, and his memorable feat of carrying off the gates of Gaza all refer to aspects of solar activity. Many of the ancient peoples had more than one solar deity. In fact, all the gods and goddesses were supposed to partake in part at least of the sun's effulgence. Did I already say that if Source is the sun, if God is the sun, then we are all like little lights, little offshoots. You know the sun sometimes gives off little we're those. We're pieces of the sun. And so now when I hear sons of God, I don't see S-O-N, I see S-U-N-S, sons, little ones of the supreme deity, the giant sun, the smaller sun. Like a little baby sun. The golden ornaments used by the priestcraft of various world religions are again a subtle reference to the solar energy. That's why they wear gold. Gold's a big deal and all that. And that's why, like, you know how if you watched Initiation, it talks about the solar deity and how it says that there's beings living inside the sun. And they're solar angels and the solar something core, I can't remember. But it's stuff like that. And I figure that's why a lot of these beings were adorned in gold, especially these Anunnaki that came from heaven to earth. If that, well, it, again, a subtle reference to the solar energy, as are also the crowns of kings. In ancient times, crowns had a number of points extending outward, like rays of the sun. But modern conventionalism has in many cases either removed the points or else bent them inward, gathered them together, or placed an orb or cross upon the point where they meet. Many of the ancient prophets, philosophers, and dignitaries carried a scepter, with the upper end of which bore a representation of the solar globe, surrounded by emanating rays. All the kingdoms of earth but were copies of the kingdoms of heaven, and the kingdoms of heaven were best symbolized by the solar kingdom, in which the sun was the supreme ruler, the planets his privy council, and all nature the subject of his empire. Oh. Oh, this is cool. So, you ever see this winged disc? A lot of people think it's like the Anunnaki thing, right? This is the solar orb. Listen to what it says. The winged globe of Egypt. From Maurice's Indian Antiquities. This is what the picture's from. This symbol, which appears over the pylons or gates of many Egyptian palaces and temples, is emblematic of the three persons of the Egyptian Trinity. The wings and the serpents and the solar orb are the insignia of Amun-Ra, and Osiris. See, remember how I read this before about how the little thing on the forehead, that was a symbol of knowledge, the snake? The little Egyptian, not the little, but the little headband that the Egyptian priests wore, and sometimes the pharaohs too, they had that little thing, the little snake on their forehead. That represents wisdom, and it also represents the reincarnation cycle with the Ouroboros and stuff, the snake. And the wings are the Kundalini wings of flight. That is so cool. And the solar orb of the supreme deity. Two wings represented light and dark together, flapping as one. That's fucking cool. Anyway, let's go on. Many deities have been associated with the sun. The Greeks believed that Apollo, my throat, Bacchus, Dionysus, Sabusius, Hercules, Jason, Ulysses, Zeus, Uranus, and Vulcan partook of either Vulcan, huh? What does that remind you of? Star Trek. Partook of either the visible or invisible attributes of the sun. The Norwegians regarded Balder the Beautiful as a solar deity, and Odin is often connected with the celestial orb, especially because of his one eye. That was the first god I ever met. Among the Egyptians, Osiris, Ra, Anubis, Hermes, and even the mysterious Amun himself had points of resemblance with the solar disk. Isis was the mother of the sun, and Typhon, the destroyer, like the beginning of the end, the Alpha and Omega. Typhon, with the destroyer, was supposed to be a form of solar energy. So, like, representing, like, the crone, the maiden, and the mother, like I was saying before, how everything is a reflection. The Egyptian sun myth finally centered around the person of a mysterious deity called Seraphis. I've seen that word before. The two Central American deities, Tezcatlipoca, Puka, forgive me, and Quetzalcoatl, while often associated with the winds and as storm god, were undoubtedly solar gods. In Masonry, the sun has many symbols. One expression of the solar energy is Solomon, whose name, Sol-on, is the name for the supreme light in 3 different languages. Oh, maybe that means the same thing. Hiram Abif, the Hiram of the Chaldees, is also a solar deity. And the story of his attack and murder by the Hiramic legend. Oh wait, I skipped a line. Murder by the Ruffians, with its solar interpretation, will be found in the chapter The Hiramic Legend. A striking example of the important part which the sun plays is a symbol and Rituals of Freemasonry is given by George Oliver, D.D., in his Dictionary of Symbolical Masonry as follows. The sun rises in the east, and in the east is the place for the worshipful master. As the sun is the source of all light and warmth, so should the worshipful master, so should the worshipful master enliven and warm the brethren to their work. Among the ancient Egyptians, the sun was a symbol of divine providence. Got through that. The hierophants of the mysteries were adorned with many insignia emblematic of solar power. The sunbursts of gilt embroidery on the back of the vestments of the Catholic priesthood signify that the priest is also an emissary and representative of Sol Invictus, of the sun. Oh, Christianity and the sun. That's the next part. For reasons which they doubtless considered sufficient, those who chronicled the life and acts of Jesus found it advisable to metamorphose him into a solar deity. The historical Jesus was forgotten. Nearly all the salient incidents recorded in the four Gospels have their correlations in the movements, phases, or functions of the heavenly bodies. Among other allegories borrowed by Christianity from pagan antiquity is the story of the beautiful, blue-eyed sun god, with his golden hair falling upon his shoulders, robed from head to foot in spotless white, and carrying in his arms the Lamb of God, symbolic of the vernal equinox. This handsome this handsome youth is a composite of Apollo, Osiris, Orpheus, Mithras, and Bacchus, for he has certain characteristics in common with each of these pagan deities. It's going to upset some people. Doesn't mean Jesus was real. Jesus was. May not have been his name, but whatever. The philosophers of Greek and Egypt divided the life of the sun during the year into 4 parts. Therefore, they symbolized the solar man by 4 different figures. When he was born in the winter solstice, December 25th, the sun god was symbolized as a dependent infant whom in some mysterious manner had managed to escape the powers of darkness, like the sun rising again after being in the night, seeking to destroy him while he was still in the cradle of winter. The sun, being weak at this season of the year, had no golden rays or locks of hair, but the survival of the light through the darkness of winter was symbolized by one tiny hair, which alone adorned the head of the celestial child. As the birth of the sun took place in Capricorn, it was often represented as being suckled by a goat. At the vernal equinox, the sun had grown to be a beautiful youth. His golden hair hung in ringlets on his shoulders, with his light As Schiller said, extended to all parts of infinity. At the summer solstice, the sun became a strong man, heavily bearded, who in his prime of maturity symbolized the fact that nature at this period of the year is strongest and most, I don't know what that word is, fecund, but whatever, Fecund. Or was I? Right. At the autumnal equinox, at the fall equinox, the sun was pictured as an aged man, shuffling along with bended back and whitened locks into the oblivion of winter darkness. Thus 12 months were assigned to the sun as the length of its life. I mean, the mother, maiden, and crone could be applied to men. You know what I mean? Father, I don't even know what they would be, but it applies to both. Thus 12 months were assigned to the sun as the length of its life. During this period it circled the 12 signs of the zodiac in a magnificent triumphal march. When fall came it entered, like Samson, into the house of Delilah, Virgo, where its rays were cut off. Oh my god, that's when they cut his hair. And it lost its strength. Oh, I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because I'm surprised. Um, in Masonry, the cruel winter months are symbolized by 3 murderers who sought, so dramatic, who sought to destroy the God of light and truth. Okay. The coming of the sun was hailed with joy. The time of its departure was viewed as a period to be set aside for sorrow and unhappiness. This glorious, radiant orb of day, the true light, which lighteth every man who cometh into the world, the supreme benefactor who raised all things from the dead, who fed the hungry multitudes, who stilled the tempest, who after dying rose again and restored all things to life. This supreme spirit of humanitarianism and philanthropy is known to Christendom as Christ, the Redeemer of worlds, the only begotten of the Father, the Word made flesh, and the hope of glory. The birthday of the sun. The pagans set aside. See, now, I mentioned this before in one of my videos, and there was an opportunity. Elena Denon was asked about Jesus Christ, and I remember her, and I'm not judging, look, I'm just telling you what happened. She said, oh, well, I know of Jesus, but I don't know Jesus, okay? That was her reply. And that confused me in 2 ways, because one, even though I've never met Jesus or Christ or Krishna or any of them, I do know the spirit of Christ. So to say that I don't know him or know of him, that's incorrect for me personally. But what I think she wanted to say was this kind of stuff, but didn't, couldn't, or didn't want to for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't her destiny. I don't know. But that's what I remember that, and reading this again, it reminded me, because I remember making a video about that, and how confused I was, how you would, and now it's this. It's because it's the not S-O-N, but S-U-N, and the Son being a physical representation of the Father. The pagans set aside the 25th of December as the birthday of the solar man. They rejoiced, feasted, gathered in processions, and made offerings in the temples. That's December 25th, that's Christmas. The darkness of winter was over, and the glorious sun of light was returning to the northern hemisphere. With his last effort, the old sun god had torn down the house of the Philistines, the spirit of darkness, and had cleared the way for the new sun, who was born that day from the depths of the earth amidst the symbolic beasts of the lower world. Concerning the season of celebration, an anonymous master of arts of Balliol College, Oxford, in his scholarly treatise Mankind, Their Origin and Destiny, says, the Romans had their solar festival and their games of the circus in honor of the birth of the god of day, which is the sun. It took place the 8th day before the calends of January. This is on December 25th. Servius, in his commentary on verse 720 of the 7th book of the Aeneid, in which Virgil speaks of the new sun, says that, properly speaking, the sun is new on the 8th of the calends of January. That is December 25th. That was so weird. I felt like I had to come back to my YouTube channel on January 8th. That was the day I re-uploaded my video. I'm pretty sure it was. In the time of Leo, I'm a Leo, by the way. I was born in August. Leo the First. Leo's... Yeah, okay, whatever that is. It's a reference to another page. Some of the fathers of the church said that what rendered the festival of Christmas vulnerable was less the birth of Jesus Christ than the return and, as they expressed it, the new birth of the sun. It was on the same day that the birth of the invincible sun, Natalis Solis Invicti, was celebrated at Rome, and can be seen in the Roman calendars published in the reign of Constantine and of Julian, Hymn to the Sun, page 155. This Ephiot Invictus is the name of the name as the Persians gave to this same god, whom they worshipped by the name of Mithra, and whom they caused to be born in a grotto, just as he is represented as being born in a stable under the name of Christ by the Christians. Concerning the Catholic feast of the Assumption and its parallel in astronomy, the same author adds, at the end of 8 months, when the sun god, having increased, transverses the 8th sign, he absorbs the celestial Virgin in his fiery course, and she disappears in the midst of the luminous rays and the glory of her Son. This phenomenon, which takes place every year about the middle of August, gave rise to the festival which still exists and in which it is supposed that the Mother of Christ, laying aside her earthly life, is associated with the glory of her Son, and is placed at his side in the heavens. The Roman calendar of Columella marks the death or disappearance of Virgo at this period. The Sun, he says, passes into Virgo on the 13th day before the calendar ends of September. Holy Lord. Right. I'm going to finish this, but then I'm going to turn it off and make a new one for the next part because my throat hurts. I need a break. This is where the Catholics place the Feast of the Assumption, or the reunion of the Virgin to her Son. This feast was formerly called the Feast of the Passage of the Virgin, and in the Library of the Fathers, we have an account of the passage of the Blessed Virgin. The ancient Greeks and Romans fixed the Assumption of Astrea, who is also this same Virgin on that day. The Virgin Mother giving birth to the Sun God, which Christianity has so faithfully preserved, is a reminder of the inscription concerning her Egyptian prototype, Isis, which appeared on the temple of Sais. The fruit which I have brought forth is the sun. Aww. Well, the Virgin was associated with the moon by the early pagans. There was no doubt that they also understood her position as a constellation in the heavens, for nearly all the peoples of antiquity credit her as being the mother of the sun. That's why I always say my heavenly mother and father. You can't leave her out. And they realized that although the moon could not occupy that position, the sign of Virgo could, and did give birth to the sun out of her side on the 25th day of December. Albertus Magnus states, "We know that the sign of the Celestial Virgin rose over the horizon at the moment at which we fixed the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ." In Virgo. Among certain of the Arabian and Persian astronomers, the three stars forming the sword belt of Orion were called the Magi, who came to pay homage to the young sun god. The author of Mankind, Their Origin and Destiny contributes the following additional information. In Cancer, which had risen to the meridian at midnight, is the constellation of the stable and of the ass, like as in donkey. The ancients called it Pericipi Jovis. In the north, the stars of the bear are seen, called by the Arabians Martha and Mary, and also the coffin of Lazarus. Thus, the esotericism and pagandom was embodied in Christianity, although its keys are lost. The Christian Church blindly follows ancient customs, and when asked for a reason, gives superficial and and unsatisfactory explanations, either forgetting or ignoring the indisputable fact that each religion is based upon the secret doctrines of its predecessor. And there, my friends, we are going to end this part, and we will start a new one, because there's like 4 more pages. Just give me a break, and then I'll keep going. I just need a break. Hopefully this doesn't turn off. If it does, we'll start a part 2. I'll be right back. Well, geez, I don't even know how long I was gone for. I forgot I was recording a video, and then I remembered. Oh, dear. Okay. So the 3 suns. The solar orb, like the nature of man, was divided by the ancient sages into 3 separate bodies. According to the mystics, there are 3 suns in each solar system. Analogous to the 3 centers of life in each individual constitution. So like the 12-fold constitution of man. These are called the 3 lights. Whew! Dun 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 dun. That's actually in Sailor Moon. There's a group called the 3 Lights, and I adore Sailor Moon. The 3 lights: the spiritual sun, the intellectual, so the spirit, the mind, and the body. The spiritual sun, the intellectual, or SOULAR sun, solar sun, and the material sun, which is the mind, the spirit, and the body, which was about my photo shoot and the 3 energies of those. And so I was trying to represent those energies individually. And this is why I needed to read this chapter, because then people will understand about that more, which I tried to explain in my red versus blue, because if you mix red and blue together, it makes purple, which is like your crown chakra color, and the 3rd eye, which is like a shade of purple. Okay. Now symbolized in Freemasonry by 3 candles. So if you ever see that, a little with a 3 candle thing, that's what that is. That's the three suns, the mind, the body, and spirit of solar man, of us too. And if you don't know what the 12-fold constitution of man is, I believe it was on, hi baby, the pyramid. If I put the pyramid in one of my videos, talking about that, then it's in that one. In the description underneath, there's always links to further learning down there. It should be there. And it goes all through that in the chapter about the pyramid from the initiates of the flame. That's there as well. Okay, Mr. says hi. Let's down a little, you can see him. There he is. Say hi, Mims. Mims. Say hi, Bob. Well, I already spoke once, so. Okay. Okay, the spiritual sun manifests the power of God the Father. The solar sun radiates the life of God the Son. And the material sun is the vehicle of manifestation for God the Holy Spirit. Man's nature was divided by the mystics into 3 distinct parts: spirit, soul, and body. So you think even me, I have these 2 words confused, spirit and soul. Is spirit like the collective of source, would be the spirit, as in everywhere, and then the soul would be our little piece of that. Like mister. Like I was saying how the sun, and then we're like little lights off of the sun, pieces of source. Because even I'm confused about that sometimes, but I think that's what that is. I will correct myself eventually if I'm wrong. I'll learn. Okay. Man's nature was divided by the mystics into three distinct parts: spirit, soul, and body. His physical body was unfolded and vitalized by the material sun. His spiritual nature was illuminated by the material sun. His spiritual nature was illuminated by the spiritual sun. And the intellectual nature was redeemed by the true light of grace, the solar sun, like SOULAR, sun. The alignment of these three globes in the heavens was one explanation offered for the peculiar fact that the orbits of the planets were not circular, but elliptical. I had one of those workout machines before. I never used it, though. I should have. The pagan priests always considered the solar system as a grand man and drew their analogies of these three centers of activity from the three main centers of life in the human body: the brain, the heart, and the generative system. I told you. Remember I said about Mark Passio saying that the G in the Freemason thing doesn't stand for gnosis like everyone thinks it does? I have that written down here too on this paper to define what gnosis is. But, oh, he left a big clump of fur behind too. Okay. Anyway, but it stands for generate. And in that, did I talk about this already? Or was that the one before? I don't remember. But I have another video that I haven't recorded yet that I'm going to talk about generative forces, about the red and the blue and fire and ice and stuff like that, and the polarities of those things. But what I'm thinking is, so the heart, or the heart, the heart, the mind, and the generative system. So your sea of chi, your energy, your solar plexus. This is where I said when I first experienced telepathy, I called it an energetic text message that I felt first in my stomach. Hold on. I'm not picking my nose. There's itchy hair, okay? Probably from the cat, from Mr. Sweet Cheeks. Okay. So that's what it would be. So the mind, body, spirit, soul. Okay. We are learning together. Where was I? The alignment of these three globes in the heavens was one explanation offered for the peculiar fact that the generative system. Sorry. So we're at the heart, the brain, and the generative system. The transfiguration of Jesus describes three tabernacles, the largest being in the center, the heart, the smallest one on either side, the brain, and the generative system. That's three. It is possible that the philosophical hypothesis of the existence of the three suns is based upon a peculiar natural phenomenon which has occurred many times in history. In the 51st year after Christ, 3 suns were seen at once in the sky, and also in the 66th year and the 99th year, 2 suns were seen together. According to William Lilly, between the years 1156 and 1648, 20 similar occurrences were recorded. So, for the people even today seeing 2 suns in the sky, not abnormal, I don't think, because clearly it's been happening for quite some time. Recognizing the sun as the supreme benefactor of the material world, Hermeticists believed that there was a spiritual sun which ministered to the needs of the invisible, like the unseen realm, and divine part of nature, human and universal. So of course, if there's a sun here, there'd be a sun there. Like a spirit sun in their spiritual dimension. And anent this subject, the great Paracelsus wrote, "There is an earthly sun, which is the cause of all heat, and all who are able to see may see the sun, and those who are blind and cannot see him may feel his heat. There is an eternal sun, which is the source of all wisdom," like the mind, "and those whose spiritual senses have awakened to life will see the sun and be conscious of his existence." Yeah. But those who have not attained spiritual consciousness may yet feel his power by an inner faculty which is called intuition. So spirit, soul, what was it? Spirit, soul, body. Certain Rosicrucian scholars have given special appellations to these 3 phases of the sun. The spiritual sun they called Vulcan, like from Star Trek. The solar and intellectual sun are Christ and Lucifer, respectively, and the material sun, the Jewish demiurgus Jehovah. Lucifer here represents the intellectual mind without the illumination of the spiritual mind. Therefore, it is the false light. The false light is finally overcome and redeemed by the true light of the soul, called the second Logos, or Christ. The secret processes by which the Luciferian intellect is transmuted into the Christly intellect constitute one of the great secrets of alchemy and are symbolized by the process of base metals into gold. That's the Philosopher's Stone. I knew this was going to be a good chapter. In the rare treatise, The Secret Symbol of the Rosicrucians, Franz Hartmann defines the sun alchemically as the symbol of wisdom, the center of power, or heart of all things. The sun is the center of energy and a storehouse of power, just like your solar plexus. Each living being contains within itself a center of life, which may grow to be a sun. Yeah, because we're each little pieces of the sun. In the heart of the regenerated, the divine power, stimulated by the light of the Logos, grows into a sun, which illuminates the mind. So like the heart and the mind connection, which is the fourth and the fifth, like you have to have this union. That's why when I first met Asura, he told me, calm mind, calm spirit, calm mind, calm spirit. Because it has to be both, the union of both. Where was I? Uh-oh. Base metals into gold, the Philosopher's Stone. I have a video about that. It says that on the video. It has to do with stages of spiritual alchemy or something like that. In the rare treatise, The Secret Symbols of the Rosicrucians, Franz Hartmann defines the sun alchemically as the symbol of wisdom, the center of power, or heart of all things. The sun is the center of energy and a storehouse of power. Each living being contains within itself a center of life, which may grow to be a sun. In the heart of the regenerated, the divine power, stimulated by the light of the Logos, grows into a sun, which illuminates his mind. In a note, the same author amplifies his description by adding, the terrestrial sun is the image or reflection of the invisible celestial sun. The former is in the realm of spirit, what the latter is in the realm of matter. So just like body and spirit, there's non-matter and matter. There's a spiritual realm, which you can't really see or physically touch, but it is there, right beside us. A lot of people say that, the spirit realm walks alongside of us. It is. That's why I say a lot of time you'll see things in your peripheral vision, which is to the side. That has to do with the fourth dimension. But the latter received its power from the former, so they rely on each other, just like your spirit and your body rely on each other. In the majority of cases, the religions of antiquity agree that the material visible sun was a reflector rather than a source of power. The sun was sometimes represented as a shield carried on the arm of the sun god, as, for example, Frey, the Scandinavian solar deity. The sun reflected the light of the invisible spiritual sun, which was the true source of life, light, and truth. The physical nature of the universe is receptive. It is a realm of effects. The invisible causes of these effects belong to the spiritual world. Hence, the spiritual world is the sphere of causation. The material, like cause and effect. The material world is the sphere of effects, while the intellectual or soul world is the sphere of mediation. So you work it out here. This is what the red and the blue is all about. Blue being spirit and red being physical. So non-matter being blue, matter being red. And that's why the sun is fire. Because it's body, it's physical. And fire is positive, whereas blue would be negative. But that's just because of polarities. Because fire is like on the most extreme end. What did I say? Oh, it's push and pull. Fuck. I'm not supposed to talk about this now, I'm getting tired. But ice is water in its most negative form. So that's why it's ice and not water. And fire is energy in its most charged, or whatever that is. Okay, let's just finish this. In the majority of cases, the religions of antiquity agree that the material visible sun was a reflector. I reread that part. Cause and effect. The material world, the sphere of effects. While the intellectual or soul world is the sphere of mediation between the two. Thus Christ, the personified higher intellect and soul nature, is called the mediator, who, by virtue of his position and power, says, "No man cometh to the Father but by me." What the sun is to the solar system, the spirit is to the bodies of man. For his nature's organs and functions are as planets surrounding the central life or sun, and living upon its emanations. The solar power in man is divided into three parts, which are termed the threefold human spirit of man. All three of these spiritual natures are said to be radiant and transcendent. Unified, they form the divinity in man, man's threefold lower nature, consisting of his physical organism, his emotional nature, and his mental facilities, reflects the light of his threefold divinity and bears witness of it in the physical world. Man's three bodies are symbolized by an upright triangle, 1, 2, 3. His threefold spiritual nature are an inverted triangle, which is down. These two triangles are united in the form of a six-pointed star, were called by the Jews the Star of David, the signet of Solomon, and are more commonly known today as the Star of Zion. These triangles symbolize the spiritual and material universes linked together, in the constitution of the human creature, who partakes of both nature and divinity, divinity being spirit, nature being physical. Man's earthly nature partakes of the earth, sometimes referred to as beast nature. His divine nature of the heavens. Man's animal nature partakes of the earth, his divine nature of the heavens. This is the union of heaven and earth. His human nature is the mediator. Oh, I am tired. It's just a bit longer. Just a bit. Oh. See, no one's ever going to get what I'm trying to tell them because my videos are too long and nobody watches them, you know? I mean, I'm sure, yes, people do watch. I'm not saying you are or nobody who's watching this now, but it just takes me so long to get to the point. I hope other people will help me to teach this information. The Rosicrucians and the Illuminati, describing the angels, archangels. Oh, this one's called the Celestial Inhabitants of the Sun. I forgot to read that part. The Rosicrucians and the Illuminati, it literally says that, describing the angels, archangels, and other celestial creatures, declared that they resembled small suns. They do. They glow like that, with a golden ring around them, and it almost looks like a sun. Clearly, I've seen one. By streamers of virillic force, and that is vril, is energy, prana, life source. It's basically what comes from your solar plexus. That's your energy center. Some people think that it's like your aura or whatever. No. I've often, like, how would I call that, like, feeling another, it doesn't necessarily have to be a human person, a person of any kind, their power. I can usually feel that off of them from my own power center reacting. But that is the virilic force. And I believe that the generative force is, so I think the mind, this is, if the stomach is force, because there's like push, pull, right? Anyway, from these outpouring streamers of force is derived the popular belief that angels have wings. It does sometimes look like that because it's kind of like off of them, and sometimes people will think they've got like 4 wings or whatever, but they don't. This is actually just their energy streaming off of them. I mean, like I said, if when it comes to shape shifting and stuff like that, you could grow the wings, even though you don't need them. You don't actually need to be flapping your wings. You just think fly. You don't actually need to use that force of flying. So it works differently. Um, the wings are corona-like fans of light, almost like when light goes through a prism. Sometimes it looks a little bit rainbow-like too. By means of which the celestial creatures propel themselves through the subtle essences of their super physical world. So yeah, you're thinking it, your energy and your consciousness is moving you. The bigger your energy is, the more bright and beautiful you'll look in your natural energetic state without shifting into anything for the comfort of whatever you're trying to connect and speak with. They can do those things, and become something more relatable. I'm sure they had to practice at that because there's depictions of them where they're like tons of wings and eyeballs. They probably thought that was the coolest thing ever with a bunch of rings and stuff, and then they scared the shit out of people. Like, I don't know what happened. That was the coolest thing ever. But yeah, true mystics are unanimous in their denial of the theory that the angels and archangels are in human form, as so often pictured. They're not. They can shape-shift into that. But they could also shape-shift into a gray alien, if they have to. So, this, I mean, because I've experienced this type of shape-shifting, and it's not a negative thing. People can use it for negative things, which is a very unfortunate and sad thing, which I would never encourage anyone to do. But they'll do it anyway. But there's karma for that. A human figure would be utterly useless in the ethereal substances through which they manifest. It's true. I mean, you can't even, your legs, yeah, anyway. Science has long debated the probability of the other planets being inhabited. Objections to the idea are based upon the argument that creatures with human organisms could not possibly exist in the environments of Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune. This argument fails to take into account nature's universal law of adjustment to environment. The ancients asserted that life originated from the sun, and that everything, when bathed in the light of the solar orb, was capable of absorbing the solar life elements and later radiating them as flora and fauna. One philosophical concept regarded the sun as a parent and the planets as embryos still connected to the solar body by means of ethereal umbilical cords, which served as channels to convey life and nourishment to the planets. I actually drew a picture of Source like that, connected to me by a cord, but I often connect it to the back of my neck, not the stomach where your umbilical cord would normally go, like when you're a baby in your mother's womb. And that was one of the things I wanted to add to my book, was a picture example of that, because it's a reflection of you being connected to Source as like a piece of Source, or a child of Source, or a sun, son of God, or like a little offshoot of the sun. And it shows when you look at a newborn baby and the umbilical cord, and then you lay out the placenta, and there's lots of veins and lines. If you watch my video about Source, I talk about that, how there's all these tethers, I called them, which, another way it could be a vein that travels. Veins carry blood, and the veins of source, the tethers of source that are spread out through all things, carry etheric energy and spiritual information, and like the sun's light and rays, life-giving. Um, and yeah, and it gives nourishment, just as the placenta gives nourishment to the baby. That's why you shouldn't cut the umbilical cord right after you give birth. You should leave it attached. I don't know how long it says, but you don't cut it, because most of the nutrients of the blood goes into the baby afterwards. That happens. So it's very important that you leave that. I always planned to. I wanted to have a water birth, actually. So, I mean, I'm not even pregnant, but that's the way I wanted to do it, and that's my advice about that, because I think that they cut the umbilical cord as fast as possible, probably for many reasons. You know, uh, right. Some secret orders have taught that the sun was inhabited by a race of creatures which bodies composed of radiant spiritual ether, not unlike in its not unlike in its constituents. That's what? Cons- Constituency? No, that's not, I don't know. The actual glowing ball of the sun itself. Some secret orders have taught that the sun was inhabited by a race of creatures with bodies composed of radiant spiritual ether, not unlike in its constituency. Oh, the actual glowing ball of the sun itself. The solar heat had no harmful effect upon them because their organisms were sufficiently refined and sensitized to harmonize with the sun's tremendous vibratory rate. I just remembered in Star Trek, it was with Jonathan Archer. I have that. That was the, because when I asked, it was like, okay, if I'm starting Star Trek, I want to see where they first start out. Was it no? It's literally right there. Hold on. No, it isn't. Where'd I put it? Uh, uh-oh. I don't know. Oh, I see it. God dang it. Oh, for God's sake. Enterprise. I was right. Enterprise. Look at my nerd self. And in this one, it was heck of a time getting it out. That's what she said. So, this is what I was talking about. My Star Trek Enterprise. It's cool. It's got this cool case that comes in. And then it's, this. So, in this, the doctor in this was my friggin' favorite. One time he's talking about this couple, and he's like, I think they're gonna mate. I wonder if he'd let me watch. For scientific purposes. Because he's an alien. Okay, he's an alien doctor, and it was about two humans. It was one of the funniest things I've ever heard. But anyway, there was a fire being, and they caught it, and it was made of fire. I actually had a dream one time that there was a being made of fire chasing my ass. But anyway, it just reminded me of that, and they hurt him by turning down the heat. It was quite a difficult creature, so if they didn't have the heat up just right. Anyway, that reminded me of that beings in the sun, and that's what they were. They were like these fire creatures. And that was in Star Trek. Good Lord, it's an hour and a half. Right. These creatures resembled miniature suns, being a little larger than a dinner plate in size. Although some of the more powerful are considerably larger, their color is the golden white light of the sun, and from them emanates 4 streamers of vril, which is like archangels, sounds like, because they have 4 wings. Oh, I was right. These streamers are often of great length and are in constant motion because of the energy of the beings. That's because they're so strong. A particular palpitation is to be noted throughout the structure of the globe and is communicated in the form of ripples to the emanating streamers. So it's almost like circles, almost like a halo around them. But it's a vibratory effect. Boom, 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 boom. Kind of like that. A palpitation. You know? It has to do with their energy. Ripples to the emanating. The greatest and most luminous of these spheres is the Archangel Michael and the entire order of solar life, which resemble him and dwell upon the sun, are called by modern Christians the archangels or the spirits of the light. There's even more. The next part is the sun in alchemical symbology. Gold is the metal of the sun and has been considered by many as crystallized sunlight. That's why a lot of beings wear the sun, or wear gold and stuff like that. You see a lot of deities and stuff like this, and that's one of the reasons why I was wearing gold jewelry. It represents the sun. When gold is mentioned in alchemical tracts, it may be either the metal itself or the celestial orb, which is the source or spirit of gold. Sulfur, because of its fiery nature, was also associated with the sun. As gold was a symbol of spirit and the base metals represented man's lower nature, certain alchemists were called miners. I live in a mining town, P.S., and it's huge into Freemasonry. It's one of the biggest buildings I've ever seen. It's probably one of the, well, it's definitely one of the biggest buildings in town. The Freemason Lodge, the Bell Rock Masonic Lodge. And I went right up to the door, but nobody was home. I didn't knock or anything. I was too scared. I didn't want to get sacrificed to the devil or anything. That's what I was afraid of back then. I'm not anymore. And were pictured with picks and shovels digging into the earth in search of the precious metal, gold. Gold miners. Huh. Yeah, I guess alchemists definitely could be called gold miners. Those finer traits of character buried in the earthiness of materiality and ignorance. The diamond concealed in the heart of the black carbon illustrated the same principle. The Illuminati used a pearl hidden in the shell of an oyster at the bottom of the sea to signify spiritual powers. Thus the seeker after truth became a pearl fisher. Pearl fisher, pearl fishing, we're gonna fish for pearls. He descended into the sea of material illusion in search of understanding, termed by the initiates the pearl of great price. When the alchemist stated that every animate and inanimate thing in the universe contained the seeds of gold, they meant that even the grains of sand possessed a spiritual nature, for gold was the spirit of all things. Concerning these seeds of spiritual gold, the following Rosicrucian axiom is significant. A seed is useless and impotent unless it is put in its appropriate matrix. Well, Franz Hartmann comments on this axiom with these illuminating words: a soul cannot develop and progress without an appropriate body, because it is the physical body that furnishes the material for its development. The purpose of alchemy was not to make something out of nothing, but rather to fertilize and nurture the seed which was already present. Star seed. Sun seed. Oh. Being a seed of the sun. Because that's what a star is the sun. Anyway. Right. The purpose of alchemy, right. Seed was already present. Its processes did not actually create gold, but rather made the ever-present seed of gold grow and flourish. Yeah, like that flower thing I kept showing everybody. Everything which exists has a spirit, the seed of divinity within itself, and regeneration is not the process of attempting to place something where it previously had not existed. And regeneration is not the process of attempting to place something where it previously had not existed. Regeneration actually means the unfoldment of the omnipresent deity in man, that this divinity may shine forth as the sun and illuminate all with whom it comes in contact. We're almost done. One more page. Alpheus said, Apuleius, whatever, said when describing his initiation, "At midnight I saw the sun shining with a splendid light. The midnight sun was also part of the mystery of alchemy. It symbolized the spirit in man shining through the darkness of his human organisms. It is also referred to the spiritual sun in the solar system, which the mystic could see as well at midnight as at high noon. The material earth being powerless to obstruct the rays of this divine orb. The mysterious lights which illuminated the temple of the Egyptian mysteries during the nocturnal hours were said by some to be reflections of the spiritual sun gathered by the magical powers of the priests. The weird light seen 10 miles below the surface of the earth by the I Am the Man in that remarkable Masonic allegory, Etidorfa. Oh, it's Aphrodite spelt backwards. May well refer to the mysterious midnight sun of the ancient rites. Primitive conceptions concerning the warfare between the principles of good and evil were often based upon the altercations of day and night. This is called the midnight sun, by the way. Or maybe the black sun? Alternations of day and night. During the Middle Ages, the practices of black magic were confined to the nocturnal hours, and those who served the spirit of evil were called black magicians, while those who served the spirit of good were called white magicians. Black and white were associated respectively with night and day, and the endless conflict of light and shadow is alluded to many times in the mythologies of various peoples. The Egyptian demon Typhon was symbolized as part crocodile and part hog, because these animals are gross and earthly in both appearance and temperament. Since the world began, living things have feared the darkness. Those few creatures who use it as a shield for their maneuvers were usually connected with the spirit of evil. Consequently, cats, bats, toads, and owls are associated with witchcraft. In certain parts of Europe, it is still believed that at night black magicians assume the bodies of wolves and roam around destroying things. Oh, it just says destroying. From this notion originated the stories of the werewolves. Serpents, because they lived in the earth, were associated with the spirit of darkness, hidden from the light, under the earth. As the battle between good and evil centers around the use of the generative forces of nature, winged serpents represent the regeneration of the animal nature of man, or those great ones in whom this regeneration is complete. So basically the reincarnation cycle, maybe? That sounds like? Because to regenerate is to come back, Okay. Among the Egyptians, the sun's rays are often shown ending in human hands. Yeah, where the Egyptians have their hands out and the sun's shining into them? Masons will find connection between these hands and the well-known paw of the lion, which raises all things to life with its grip. That's represented in these pictures. Like, hold on. Well, it reminded me of this. I don't know if it's the same thing. The Hand of the Mysteries. Oh. It's here. I've shown you before. 3 more pages fell out. So you can see the scales of balance, the crown of divinity, the sun, the moon, the key, all that stuff. You can read about that in the Initiates of the Flame. The alchemist lamp, which guides the way through the unknown. Okay. Yep, more pages fell out. That's great. Where is that thing? Well, it made me think of this thing, too. I'm going to have to move these pages. Bet you more are going to fall out. But there's the lion there. And there's the eagle there and the lion. You'll see those on the tarot cards, too. On the world card, I believe it is. And there's the light. This, and they're tied to the wheel. Do you see that? Oh, I talk about that in my book. As the great wheel turns. That's what I'm talking about. I channeled that shit. For my future self. Oh no, I lost our page. Oh, no, I found it. And that's like that's the generative forces of nature, which is fire and ice. Like I was saying, winged serpents represent the regeneration of animal nature, of man, or those great ones in whom this regeneration is complete. Among the Egyptians, the sun's rays are often shown ending in human hands. Masons will find the connection between these hands, a well-known paw of the lion, which raises, oh, okay, all things to life with its grip, right. Oh, this is what I was reading for at the end of the video now. This has to do with solar colors, which has to do with the yellow, the red, and the blue, which is intelligence, body, and spirit, mind, body, soul. The theory so long held of 3 primary colors and 4 secondary colors is purely esoteric. For since the earliest periods it has been known that there are 7, and not 3, primary colors, the human eye being capable of estimating only 3 of them. Thus, although green can be made by combining blue and yellow, there is also a true or primary green, which is not a compound. This can be proved by breaking up the spectrum with a prism. I have those hanging on the window, so when the light shines through, it makes rainbows all over the room. It's really pretty. Light prisms. Helmholtz found that the so-called secondary colors of the spectrum could not be broken up into their supposed primary colors. Thus, the orange of the spectrum, if passed through a secondary prism, does not break up into yellow and red. It remains orange. Consciousness, intelligence, and force. That's what it is. Those are the 3 things. Consciousness, intelligence, and force. I think. Are fittingly, that's just my guess, are fittingly symbolized by the colors blue, yellow, and red. Yeah. Red being the body, yellow being the mind, and blue being spirit or soul. The therapeutic effects of colors, moreover, are in harmony with this concept, for blue is fine, soothing, electrical color, yellow is vitalizing and refining color, and red an agitating and heat-giving color. It has also been demonstrated that minerals and plants affect the human constitution according to their colors. Thus, a yellow flower generally yields a medicine that affects the constitution in inner manner similar to yellow light or the musical tone mi, as in mi, fa, si, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Clearly, I'm not a singer, but you know what I mean? An orange flower will influence in a manner similar to orange light, and being one of the so-called secondary colors, corresponds either to the tone re or to the chord of do and mi. The ancients conceived the spirit of man to correspond with the color blue, the mind with yellow, and the body red. Heaven is therefore blue, earth is yellow, and hell, or the underworld, red. The fiery condition of the inferno merely symbolizes the nature of the sphere or plane of force of which it is composed. The cosmic force, I guess, of push. Whereas spirit would be pull, blue would pull. Plane of force of which it is composed. In the Greek mysteries, the irrational sphere was always considered as red. So rational, irrational. For it represented that condition in which the consciousness is enslaved by the lusts and passions of the lower nature. In India, certain of the gods usually in India, certain of the gods, usually attributes of Vishnu, are depicted with blue skin to signify their divine and supermundane constitution. That's why they're blue. That's cool, because they're of the spirit. According to esoteric philosophy, blue is the true and sacred color of the sun. That's why I've got this logo. I found this a long time ago. I was trying to figure out why the color blue was so important to the Mason stuff. And there's a sun, and it's called True Blue. I have that picture. And I guess it represents the sun because it's a spirit. The apparent orange-yellow shade of this orb... Blue is the true and sacred color of the sun. The apparent orange-yellow shade of this orb is the result of its rays being immersed in the substances of the illusionary world. In the original symbolism of the Christian Church, colors were of first importance, and their use was regulated accordingly to carefully prepared rules. Since the Middle Ages, however, the carelessness with which colors have been employed has resulted in the loss of their deeper emblematic meanings. In its primary aspect, white or silver signified life. That's why Jesus in that Space Army picture is in a white suit. Purity, innocence, joy, and light. Red, the suffering and death of Christ and his saints, and also divine love. Blood and warfare, or suffering, those are what red. Blue, the heavenly sphere, and the states of godliness and contemplation. Yellow or gold, glory, fruitfulness, and goodness. Green, fecundity, youthfulness, and prosperity. Violet, humility, deep affection, and sorrow. Black, death, destruction, and humiliation. In early church art, the colors of robes and ornaments also revealed whether a saint had been martyred, as well as the character of the work that he had done to deserve canonization. In addition to the colors of the spectrum, there are a vast number of vibratory color waves, some too low and others too high to be registered by the human optical apparatus, so our eyeballs. It is appalling to contemplate man's colossal ignorance concerning these vistas of abstract space. As the past man explored unknown continents, so in the future, armed with curious implements fashioned for the purpose, he will explore these little-known fastnesses of light, color, sound, and consciousness, which is what we're doing now. So that's the end of the chapter. Oh my word, I'm so sorry it took so long. If this doesn't get uploaded, it's for a reason, because it's too damn long. But I really think that was an excellent, excellent chapter. Again, I am so sorry that I'm not a better reader, and I'm a digressor. And I hope you enjoyed it. I'm not going to keep going so that we can just end this. I hope you've enjoyed it. I really did. I'm going to stick my pages back in the book, and I will talk to you soon, and where I'm going to talk about the generative forces of red and blue and all that kind of stuff, okay? And the pillars and stuff like that. Cosmic generative forces. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed that. I love you. Take care. Bye. Pika-pee. Bye.